file item number 1 is SB 509 by our esteemed Senator Caballero, who I know is here and always prepared. Welcome, Senator.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Appreciate the opportunity to present SB 509, which will develop a specialized training for law enforcement to recognize and respond to the growing threat posed by foreign governments targeting diaspora communities. Marginalized groups identified as dissidents and asylum seekers to the United States, including ethnic and religious minorities, increasingly faced attacks on their human rights, while in the U.S. from foreign governments hostile to their concerns. These countries see their diaspora communities as threats to their political stability and often extend their repressive measures beyond their own national borders. Authoritarian regimes have made use of advanced technologies such as digital surveillance and social media monitoring to track, intimidate, and threaten individuals living in democratic countries. Tactics such as harassments, threats, and even physical violence, often carried out covertly or with the assistance of international law enforcement, undermine the right to safety and freedom of expression to their former country people. Transnational repression is a direct violation of the human rights of those living in the diaspora, especially those who have sought refuge in democratic societies. While the United States has mechanisms in place to protect individuals from transnational repression, the current system is not fully equipped, and local police departments are not trained to know how to document the growing scale of these threats. A more comprehensive and coordinated approach would help ensure that California can provide adequate data and information to the victims of transnational repression. SB 509 strengthens our country's commitment to human rights, safety, and justice for every law-abiding individual, regardless of their background or country of origin. The bill ensures that law enforcement officers receive the specialized training needed to recognize and respond to the unique threats posed by foreign governments targeting individuals on U.S. soil. We had today in support Jonathan Feldman with the California Police Chiefs Association, but I believe he's juggling committees, so he's not here. But with us is Hamid Yazdan Pana with Immigrant Defense Advocates to speak.
Good morning. My name is Hamid Yazdan Pana, and I'm the Executive Director of Immigrant Defense Advocates. We work directly with immigrant communities across California, focusing on policies that protect the civil rights of immigrants, refugees, and asylum seekers. As an Iranian refugee and former immigration attorney, I've seen firsthand the dangers people flee and the threats that can follow them. My family came to the United States to escape political repression in Iran. Nearly 3 decades later, the Iranian regime still targets dissidents here on U.S. soil. Just last month, 2 men were convicted in New York in a murder for plot hire against an Iranian journalist, a textbook case of transnational repression. Unfortunately, these threats are far more common than most people realize. California is home to an estimated 500,000 torture survivors, more than any other state. Many fled regimes that punish free expression with prison or worse. And even here, they aren't always safe. Victims often stay silent out of fear of law enforcement, immigration consequences, or because of trauma. That's why SB 509 is so important. This bill provides training for law enforcement officers to recognize and respond to transnational repression. It helps ensure immigrant communities can access protection and support without fear. This bill is more than just policy. It's about people. It's about ensuring California remains a true place of refuge where people are protected, especially those who stood up to tyranny. I urge you to support SB 509. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there additional members in the hearing room that would like to register support for this bill? Seeing no one come forward, is there a lead witness in opposition to the bill? Please come forward. You can make yourself comfortable at the table or wherever you're comfortable. If you have more than one witness, you'll have 2 minutes each. Please state your name again for the record and welcome, and proceed whenever you're prepared.
Hello. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and committee members. My name is Samir Kalra, and I'm a civil rights attorney and managing director at the Hindu American Foundation, here to express strong opposition to SB 509. I want to start by stating unequivocally that we are against transnational repression in all forms, whether by foreign governments or by foreign organizations. This bill, however, is not the right way to address this challenge. On the contrary, SB 509 lacks the adequate guardrails and safeguards necessary to prevent OAS trainings on transnational repression from being politicized or from institutionalizing biases against diaspora communities from specific countries of origin. In fact, this bill would label anyone who criticizes or uses digital technology to track the activities of terrorist or separatist movements as being, quote, radicalized by state-sponsored propaganda or ideology. This would set a disturbing precedent and lead to severely curtailing and undermining important First Amendment freedom of speech protections. More dangerously, under the guise of protecting dissent, SB 509 would empower law enforcement to criminally prosecute diaspora groups and community organizations who merely speak out against terrorism and extremism by accusing them of being foreign agents or engaging in soft transnational oppression on behalf of a foreign country. In addition, the language of the bill, both in its definition of transnational oppression and who is considered an agent of a foreign government, is overly vague and could easily be weaponized to create trainings that demonize specific communities and privilege certain viewpoints. Finally, the lack of federal clarity and guidance on this issue, which is constitutionally within the purview of the federal government, would create inconsistencies and confusion in how trainings would be implemented, leaving immigrant and minority communities at significant risk of overzealous prosecution. I therefore respectfully ask for your no vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good morning, Chair and Senators. My name is Sudha Jagannathan. I'm with KONA, Coalition of Hindus of North America, and we strongly oppose SB 509. We ask you to vote no on this bill. Just like SB 403, AB 3027, partisan bills that failed in previous years, SB 509 hides behind innocuous sounding and vague language to create a divide among California communities and target certain minority and immigrant-heavy groups. FBI data shows 0 TNR cases in California. This bill, therefore, is a solution looking for a problem. It creates no new crimes, uses vague, undefined terms, and oversteps federal authority. We really fear SB 509 will create flawed training that will spread this bias into law enforcement, which is why DAs have also opposed it. Over the past 14 months, I have sought help from many of our lawmakers to tackle the growing anti-Hindu hate in California, something documented by California's own hate hotline. Now I really fear that far from getting help, folks like me will stand accused of TNR and silenced when we seek protection for our places of worship in California, 4 of which have been vandalized in 14 months, all in the name of anti-India speech. Senators, my community is really scared. We are terrified. Please keep California equal for all. We ask you to vote no on SB 509. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Is there anyone else in the hearing room who would like to go on the record in opposition to the bill? If so, please come forward, come to the microphone, state your name and your position on the bill and organization or affiliation, if any, please.
I am Geeta Sikand with Americans for Hindus. I oppose SB 509. In 1984, my uncle was shot dead by the supporters of the ideology of this bill. Please don't let it pass. Thank you very much.
Ramya Ramakrishnan from the Hindu American Foundation, strongly opposing SB 509. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Vinay Tiwari. I'm from Sacramento. I oppose SB 509. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Ranaji Joshi. This bill creates a safe harbor for transnational criminal and terrorists. I oppose this bill. Thank you.
Good morning, Senators. My name is Himanshu Patel. I represent Gujarati Samaj of Sacramento. I read the bill. It's really vague, scary, because it's a double-edged sword. while its intent might have been good.
Sir, I apologize to interrupt, but I just at this point need you just to state your name for the record and that you're opposed to the bill. That's all I can permit you to do.
The whole community is opposed to
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Neeraj Dinani. I am a resident here of Greater Sacramento and I oppose this bill.
Namaste. Good morning. My name is Prabhakar Maram Reddy, resident of Roseville, concerned Hindu. I strongly oppose SB 509.
Namaste. My name is Meghna Deshpande, and I represent CONA, Coalitions of Hindus of North America, and I strongly oppose SB 509. Thank you.
Morning. My name is Jayas Simhan. I am strongly opposed this bill. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Harsha Shedbalkar, and I'm from the Greater Sacramento community representing Hindus here, and I oppose this SB 509 bill. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Chirant Kalyanpura, and I'm a resident of Folsom, California, and I strongly oppose the bill. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Rajiv Singh. I'm representing RANA, an Indian American organization, and I'm in strong opposition of SB 509. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony and participation. We'll bring it back to the committee for questions, the author, and Senator, just maybe a little more about the impetus, and then specifically I'm observing, and I mean, this bill requires posts to begin a process to set standards for training, which is what they do, certainly through Specialized Training Institute. And I know one of your witnesses isn't here, but maybe you can speak to what we know, or one of your witness in support can speak to the process that is involved in the development of those standards and trainings at Post, and what that looks like for Post to conduct that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the opportunity to explain a little bit further. The impetus came from the Central Valley, the community in the Central Valley. This community has been very concerned about this issue, and in fact, Assemblymember Jasmeet Bains was the subject of terrorist threats and has been concerned for her life. She's a doctor, and so she many times works in a clinic with clinics are not protected in any way, and she's concerned with her safety and has been in discussions with the community. Here's the problem. I'm not surprised that California may have no reported cases of transnational repression. We don't have a system for reporting to the police department an officer that would understand what they're talking about. And so part of the challenge is that if you go to your local police department, she lives in Delano, and when she goes to the Delano police and makes a report, there's no way for them to understand what that means and the kind of impact that it could have. And since a lot of the threats that come are threats that are directed through social media, they don't have the resources to document and to compile a report, which then would go to the federal government. No question, this is a federal issue. The idea that we would allow police departments to prosecute doesn't make any sense. Police never prosecute. They take reports. That's what this is about. We need the kind of training that will allow them to understand the political context in which some of this activity is happening, so they can pass it on and pass it on to the FBI and National Security Agency. So, what Post, their job is to come up with training programs that they can offer to local law enforcement, so that there is a consistent way of reporting information and taking it down and passing it on to our federal partners. This doesn't tell the federal government what to do, because we can't do that. It just provides the mechanism for California to be recognizing that we have a number of diaspora communities. It's not just from one region, it's from all over. And in the Central Valley, that's a repository for immigrants coming to the United States, because they have many of them run small businesses or work in agriculture, and that's where they can find jobs. So That's the genesis was the discussion with the communities in my district and also with our assembly member colleague.
Thank you, Senator. And before we continue bringing questions from the members, we have a quorum. Let's establish it. Please call the roll.
Padilla.
Present.
Padilla present. Valladares. Here. Valladares here. Archuleta.
Here.
Archuleta here. Ashby. Blakespear. Here. Blakespear here. Cervantes. Cervantes here. Daly. Here. Daly here. Hurtado. Jones. Ochoa Bogue. Here. Ochoa Bogue here. Richardson. Here. Richardson here. Rubio. Smallwood Cuevas. Here. Smallwood Cuevas here. Wahab. Here. Wahab here. Weber Pearson. Here. Weber Pearson here.
Thank you. All right. Are there questions from members of the committee or comments? Here. Senator Archuleta.
Thank you, Senator, for bringing this forward. I'm myself and probably the chair the only ones that have a police background in our careers. And post, when I was through the academy, would certify our training, would certify our information from the community over the years, and whether it be the California Highway Patrol or any of the municipalities, the training was unique, it was uniform, and it certainly provided us with information with constitutional law as well as civic law and so on. But it also gave us a sensitivity of our communities. And I believe that this bill does that. And if we're not afforded the opportunity, law enforcement, to understand these various communities, to understand how everyone feels, to know exactly what's going on, not only just here but internationally, how else can we better serve the community? And this is why I will support the bill and move it at the appropriate time, because I think POST is the right agency to begin. And of course, with OSE, and I think it's the right move. We've got to understand what's taking place, and we have to do it here in California. California has the best law enforcement officers, I believe, in the state of California, who's already emphasized that time and time again. We are the best of the best. And I think this additional training will even take us to a new level. So I thank you for bringing it forward. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator. Any other members have questions or want to speak to the bill? All right, I'm sorry?
Sorry.
Senator Ochoa Bogue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So it's interesting that we're bringing this bill forward, and I have had conversations with Dr. Baines about some of the concerns and experiences that she's had. I am concerned about also the concerns that our opposition has expressed, but I think it's important to have a little bit of a discussion as far as how to guarantee the fact that we want to protect, the free speech for folks wanting to express their concerns about whatever it may be. But I think we should also address the concerns about the safety that they feel has been threatened, and how this particular bill or bills such as these might not mitigate but actually facilitate more threats or danger against community members that just want to live peacefully in their communities but happen to be from that particular countries that are, maybe considered sources of transnational repression prosecution. So how do we ensure that we have training that is it is in accordance to federal training, but yet doesn't promote negative stereotypes towards other citizens from those countries living in our country? How do we promote? Because that's, I think, one of the biggest concerns that our community members are having, is that having such a training might pose a perception or an optic that, that they themselves are not good citizens living in this country and might have ulterior motives in pursuing or conducting themselves in a way that may be deemed threatening.
So you have a lot of thoughts in there. Let me just say that
but
part
I
of the
address
difficulty,
the concerns.
what I thought about saying once the chair moved on and took roll was that I hear what the opposition is saying. I'm very sensitive to being targeted and having people think you're different and being treated differently. And I feel very badly for the woman who lost her brother. That kind of thing should not happen. And that's part of the reason why this bill is so important, is that people, whoever you are in the state of California, need to feel like when you go to, so when immigrants come to this country, first of all, they don't speak, many of them speak English, or if they do, it's limited, it's their second language. And the difficulty is that you may come from a country where there isn't a lot of trust. Trust in officials, trust in the police department, trust in people that you think should be keeping you safe. And so when you come to this country, you bring that with you. And so it takes a while before you start trusting the authorities, and that may never happen, which is why we became a sanctuary state, because we wanted people in their communities to feel safe, to go to the police department, and to record bad behavior by people that it may be illegal. And that relationship becomes really, really important, where you can trust the officials. And so that's what we're trying to do with this bill, is that what we've been told by people that have been targeted is they've gone to the police department and nothing happens. There's no report. They check back and there's nothing. And what they're told is we can't do anything because it's not against the law. Well, we don't manage federal laws. And part of your question had to do with the federal government and targeting and that kind of thing. We can't control the federal government. And now more than ever, some of the dialogues and discussions are difficult. But we have to have people feel like when they feel that they're threatened and that it's credible, someone's watching their house, they know what they're doing, they are being threatened by who they are, that someone is going to take a report, that someone's going to write it down, and that there will be official records so that you can pass it on to the federal government, and there'll be some kind of analysis of what's really going on in our country that may be related to transnational relationships. But it's in their hands. It's not in the hands of local government. And this bill doesn't do anything to say we're going to start prosecuting these kind of cases. We're going to start talking to people and arresting them. It's a way to report what people are feeling and what they're seeing, and how they think it's related to where they came from. And on a federal level, we'll deal with it. It's not everything. Reporting this is a very simple bill. Reporting it doesn't mean that people are going to be targeted or arrested, or people are going to come knocking on their door at night. It's a way to support what people are saying, which is that I'm afraid, and to document things. And if the federal government starts creating rules about what they're going to do, then we can look at it at that time. But that's not in our hands. So there's a lot of different levels at which we're operating, and all this bill is trying to do, it's not to pick on anybody. It's not to say your country of origin is bad or good. It's to say people are afraid, and that if they're afraid and they go to the police department, that someone's going to care about the fact that they're afraid, and there will be a record.
So if I may, just to follow up on that. So how do we ensure that, because I think in part of the analysis in the bill, I think folks are feeling that they are being targeted because of their home country that are being mentioned in the analysis or in the bill.
No countries are mentioned in the bill.
In the analysis, I'm sorry. Okay. In the analysis. It's interesting that they would feel that they're being targeted because they're from India or from China or from Russia. How do we ensure that they actually understand that they're not being targeted because they're from those specific countries, but just it's the actions that may be targeted, but not necessarily and I think that's probably a way to differentiate what the purpose of the bill is. It's that it's certain patterns of behavior and actions that might be that may be conducive to saying they're victims of, and I'm sorry, transnational repression. Is there a way that we can do that in order so that folks do not feel targeted by country of origin, or is that just inherently within the scope of the bill?
Well, there are no countries listed in the bill on purpose, because I felt very strongly that we don't want to be identifying. There have been internal wars, if you will, and internal conflict and strife where communities have been forced to leave, and it happens all over the world. And so right now it may be a particular country, but it's neutral on exactly which countries we're talking about. There are people that are and communities that are still reeling from diaspora, from being part of a diaspora community. The Armenians, for example, I could go on and on and on, but the point is that once the conflicts start to abate a bit, then you have less fear of threats to your person, and so this is something that could benefit any community that comes that feels like they're being threatened because they left, and they left under difficult circumstances, and so it's not targeting anybody, and it's argued that it's vague, but it's vague on purpose because we don't want to be calling out any countries or any conflicts in particular. We just want to say, if people have left their country and they have left involuntarily, but for their safety, and then they come to this country and that the safety doesn't abate. In other words, they're still being targeted and still being threatened, that somebody should be taking a report. And that's the training that Post does to be able to take down that information. What do you do with it, and then where do you send it?
So last comment, question. So for the opposition, I think it's helpful to understand that there is no specific country named. It's a pattern of behavior, I would say. Would that be fair to say?
Yes.
That it's a pattern of behaviors that they're looking into that make people feel threatened, that the law enforcement will be trained upon, but not necessarily targeting folks by origin of country. And I think that's important. Is that fair to say?
That is accurate, Senator.
So I would love to hear your thoughts on that, but I think it's important to have that discussion and have clarity that it is training and behaviors that are being looked upon to be reported so that awareness can be made.
All right, we'll let the witness answer. Please state your name again for the record and briefly respond to the question.
Samir Kalra with the Hindu American Foundation. Thank you, senators, for that discussion. Two things in response to that. I think where there is concern, as Senator Caballero pointed out, is providing training to Post or information to Post and political context. Who provides that political context, and how is that defined? And how is that going to privilege certain viewpoints on issues dealing with geopolitics in another country that may have come here between communities from a particular country? That's where our fear comes. Who's going to provide that information to Post that's going to then conduct the training, and how is that going to then train them to view certain issues that are coming up? The example I would give very briefly is that Hindu temples have been vandalized and attacked by people espousing an ideology known as the Khalistan movement. It is a fringe Sikh extremist movement that is not supported by the majority of Sikhs, but is supported by some. Now, when those issues get reported to law enforcement or people from the Hindu American community advocate for that, we are accused of criticizing that movement and being puppets of the Indian government and being agents of the Indian government and engaging in transnational repression. So that's where our fear comes in, is that we can't even speak out, and we have been accused of that in articles. So there is documented evidence of that. So how is now the training going to be conducted, or what information is going to be provided to them? How are they going to treat these attacks on these temples by these movements, extremist movements. How are we going to be treated when we speak out against it? Is law enforcement going to be trained to ignore those attacks and say those are just dissidents? They're not terrorists, they're dissidents. And that we are the ones that are engaging in transnational oppression on behalf of an Indian government trying to suppress their voices. That's the first thing. The second thing is in terms of the intent. I appreciate Senator Caballero mentioning that there are no countries in this. I think, unfortunately, while we appreciate that, if we look at those that have openly taken credit for helping to craft the bill, they've all come from the Sikh community. And so we know that the target of the bill is directed against India and people from that are Indian origin. And so while it's not there, again, on paper in the text of the bill, it comes down to how is it going to be implemented? And who are those people going to be the ones that are providing the information to post for training? So those are where our concerns are coming from. It's not that there is going to be training per se conducted, but is it going to be conducted in an unbiased, unpoliticized manner that is going to not privilege certain political viewpoints in the trainings?
Thank you. Senator, does that answer your question? All right. Any other questions? The chair has an IRECO on this. I'm going to support your bill, and I appreciate it. And a couple quick comments. First of all, transnational repression is documented. I'm sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. I looked over there earlier, didn't see anyone. Senator Smallwood-Cuevas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I know you. I appreciate your comments. I hear where you're going, and I just wanted to say that I support the bill, and I just want to say to your community, the worst thing a community can have is a police officer that is not educated. We've been down this road before, many of our communities, and you're absolutely right. What is going to be in the training, and unfortunately the struggle continues, is to make sure that we are doing training that adequately prepares and creates culturally conscious law enforcement that can do their job and not abuse our citizens and our residents. So, you know, a lot has been done by this legislature and thousands of organizations in our communities to ensure that we have leaders on that body that understand vulnerable populations, that understand bias and racism, that understands the power of law enforcement and how historically law enforcement has undermined, abused, and violated their authority in our communities. And I think there's a tremendous effort, and we see in many of our communities some progress in trying to address those conditions and those very dark and real realities of some bad apples who unfortunately have not done their jobs very well. But the way we address it is through education. The way we address it is through our advocacy. The way we address it is ensuring Post does what it needs to do to best represent and to protect our community. So I am a proponent of educating police officers. That is one step, and then our advocacy is another. So I will support the bill today, but from a community that has had a long history of engaging with law enforcement, and certainly it's been a very troubling history, but one where through 500 generations continues to fight to ensure that officers are standing up to the code of law and engaging with our communities in a way of dignity and respect and protection. It's not easy. It doesn't work in many cases, but that doesn't mean we don't fight to make it better. So with that, I will support the bill. I just wanted to share that point.
Thank you, Senator. Now, one more time. Is there any other member of the committee that would like to ask a question or have a statement? If I don't see you, please feel free to verbally get the attention of the chair so that we get this right. I don't want to overlook anyone. There are no more questions or comments. No, ma'am, the testimony phase of this is complete. Again, as I was saying a minute ago, the chair has an IRECO on this. I will support the bill. I appreciate you bringing the bill forward. And just briefly, I think it's important to remember a couple of things. One, transnational repression does exist. It is documented. It is a practice engaged in by foreign governments through an organized and intentional manner. It has impacts in the United States and in California. And even if the offenses are criminal statutes that are federal and not state, a key component of successful interdiction is always coordinated collaboration with state and local authorities. The first line of contact is often local law enforcement. Hence, it is important that that training and standards be professional, be updated, and be consistent. This bill simply instructs that that process begin. I think it's a little premature to make assumptions about the content of that training or what that training's bias may or may not be, because Post has an entire process to gather information from experts, including public input about what those wow, we have another member joining us. I'm just kidding. And what that content should look like. So, with that, there's an IRECO. Senator Archuleta, you wanted to make a motion.
Make the motion.
All right, Senator Archuleta moves the bill. Please call the roll.
SB 509, motion is due pass to Appropriations Committee. Padilla.
Aye.
Padilla, aye. Valadares.
Aye.
Valadares, aye. Archuleta.
Aye.
Archuleta, aye. Ashby. Blakespear. Aye. Blakespear, aye. Cervantes. Daly.
Aye.
Daly, aye. Hurtado. Jones. Ochoa Bogue.
Aye.
Ochoa Bogue, aye. Richardson.
Aye.
Richardson, aye. Rubio. Smallwood Cuevas. Smallwood Cuevas, aye. Wahab.
Aye.
Wahab, aye. Weber Pearson.
All right, thank you. We'll place that item on call. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Senator.